Effort is the one asset nobody can take from you. That's the whole video. That's the thing rich people know that broke people don't. And it has nothing to do with stock picks or crypto or some secret real estate trick your uncle saw in a podcast. It's effort applied every single day on stuff that actually moves the needle. So stick with me, because by the end of this, you're going to know exactly what to do tomorrow morning and the morning after that, and you're going to be annoyed at how simple it is. Let's start with the lie. The lie is that getting rich is about one big idea, one genius move. People love that story because it lets them off the hook. If it's about one lucky break, then they don't have to do anything today except wait for the break that's comfortable. It's also completely wrong. I've started businesses, I've sold businesses, I've lost money on businesses, I've watched other people's businesses from the front row as an investor, and I'm telling you, the pattern is always the same. The people who win are outworking everybody else on the boring stuff, while everybody else is waiting for inspiration to strike. Inspiration doesn't strike. You have to go find it, and you find it by putting in hours nobody's watching. I'll give you my own story. The real beginning, not the version that sounds good on stage. I was broke, like genuinely broke, sleeping on the floor with 5 other guys in a 3-bedroom apartment in Dallas. No furniture, because furniture cost money and I didn't have any. I was selling powdered milk door to door at one point. Powdered milk, you want to talk about a humbling sales job? Try convincing a stranger in Texas heat that powdered milk is a good idea. But here's the thing, nobody tells you about that period. I wasn't sitting around waiting for my big break. I was learning how to sell, how to get rejected 50 times in a row and still knock on the 51st door, how to read a room, how to close. Every single day was reps. I didn't know it at the time, but I was building the exact skill set that let me eventually build and sell a software company for over $5 billion. Not because I was smarter than everybody else, because I put in more reps every day when it didn't matter and nobody was counting. That's lesson 1, and it's the foundation for everything else. Wealth is downstream of skill, and skill is downstream of reps. You don't get good at anything by thinking about it. You get good at it by doing it badly 1,000 times until it's not bad anymore. So if you're sitting there wondering why you're not where you want to be financially, the first question isn't, what stock should I buy? The first question is, what am I actually good at? And am I getting better at it every single day, or am I coasting? Most people are coasting. They learned enough to keep their job and then they stop learning. That's the single biggest mistake I see over and over in business and in life. The day you stop getting better is the day you start losing. Even if your paycheck stays the same for a while, the world doesn't stand still just because you do. Now let's talk about what getting better every day actually looks like. Because I don't want this to be some vague motivational nonsense. I want this to be a to-do list. First thing, know your numbers. I don't care if you're running a lemonade stand or a Fortune 500 company. If you don't know your numbers, you're flying blind. And I'm not talking about some complicated spreadsheet with 40 tabs. I'm talking about the basics. What's coming in, what's going on, what's left over. Most people who are struggling financially can't answer that question with confidence. They've got a vague feeling about their bank account. A vague feeling is not a strategy. When I had nothing, I knew exactly how much money I had, down to the dollar. Because I had to. There was no cushion, and that habit, that obsession with knowing my numbers never left me. To this day, before I do any deal, the first thing I do is run the numbers myself. Not have somebody hand me a summary. Run them myself, line by line, until I understand exactly where the money goes. You want to never be poor again? Start there. Every week, sit down for 15 minutes and look at what actually happened with your money, not what you think happened. Most people are terrified to do this because they're scared of what they'll find. Do it anyway. You can't fix what you won't look at. Second thing, and this one trips people up because it sounds backwards, stop spending on stuff that makes you look rich and start spending on stuff that makes you actually good at something. I see it all the time. People who make decent money and blow it on the watch, the car, the bag, because they want people to think they've made it. Meanwhile, they haven't put $1 into learning a skill that would actually make them more valuable. Here's a test I use. Ask yourself if you're buying something because you need it to do your work better or because you want somebody at a party to notice it. If it's the second one, that's not an investment. That's a tax you're paying for approval you don't even need. I drove a beat-up car for years after I had more money than I knew what to do with because I genuinely did not care. What I did spend money on was books and conferences and later, betting on myself, putting my own cash by my own companies when banks wouldn't touch us. That's the difference between consumption and investment, and almost nobody draws that line clearly enough. Third thing, and this is the one that actually changes lives the fastest. Take the boring, unsexy path of putting a little bit of money to work consistently instead of waiting to make a big splash. People think investing is about finding the next big winner before anybody else does. Sometimes it is. If you're willing to do the homework and take real risk with money you can afford to lose, which is a whole different conversation. But for most people, most of the time, the move is way simpler than that. It's putting a piece of every paycheck into something that grows over time and leaving it alone. I know this sounds almost too simple to say on a video, but the data doesn't lie. Time in the market beats timing the market, basically every single time for regular people. The folks who get rich slowly and steady are the ones who started early and didn't panic. Sell when things got scary. The folks who stay poor are the ones waiting for the perfect entry point that never comes, or worse, the ones who jump into some hot tip from a guy at the gym because they're impatient. Patience isn't exciting. Patience also works. Now, let's talk about the part nobody wants to hear, which is that none of this works if you're not willing to fail in public repeatedly without it crushing you. I've had more failures than most people have had jobs. I had a business that completely flopped early on, where I trusted somebody I shouldn't have trusted and lost basically everything I had at the time. It was devastating. I remember sitting there thinking, okay, that's it, I blew it. Back to square one. And here's the part that actually matters. I didn't quit. I took what I learned, which was mostly about who to trust and how to set up a deal so I couldn't get burned the same way. Twice, and I went right back at it. That failure taught me more about how to structure a partnership than any business class ever could have. The people who stay broke aren't the ones who fail. Everybody fails. The people who stay broke are the ones who let one failure convince them that the whole game is rigged against them. So they stop playing. The game's not rigged. It's just hard. And most people quit right before it gets good, because that's exactly when it's the hardest. Let's get into the daily piece of this, because the title of this video is about what you do every day, and I don't want to dance around it. Here's what I'd actually tell you to do starting tomorrow morning. If you're serious about never being broke again, spend 30 minutes a day getting better at the thing that pays your bills. Not scrolling, not watching highlight reels of other people's success, actually getting better. If you're in sales, that's learning a new closing technique or studying your last 10 lost deals to figure out what went wrong. If you're in a trade, that's learning the next skill up the ladder that lets you charge more. If you're starting a business on the side that's working on it for 30 real minutes, phone away before the day swallows you whole. 30 minutes a day is 3.5 hours a week. That's a part-time education stacked on top of your regular life every single week, compounding. Most people won't do this. That's exactly why it works. You're not competing against everybody. You're competing against the small number of people willing to actually put in the time. And that number is smaller than you think. Track every dollar for 1 month. I don't care how you do it, an app, a notebook, whatever, just see it. I guarantee you'll find at least one thing you're spending money on that you didn't even realize was bleeding. You dry. It's never the big stuff people think it is. It's the small recurring stuff, the subscriptions you forgot you signed up for, the little daily habits that don't feel like spending but absolutely are. You can't redirect money toward your future if you don't know where it's currently going. This isn't about being cheap. I'm not telling you to never enjoy your money. I'm telling you, you can't make good decisions with information you don't have. Automate one piece of saving or investing, so it happens without you having to decide every time willpower runs out. I don't care how disciplined you are. Willpower is a depleting resource over the course of a day, over the course of a month, over the course of a life. The smart move is to remove the decision entirely. Set up an automatic transfer the day you get paid, even if it's small, even if it's 20 bucks, so that saving happens before you have a chance to talk yourself out of it. In the future, you don't get a vote at the moment. And that's the whole point. You're not relying on motivation. You're relying on a system that runs whether you feel motivated or not. Read or listen to something real for 20 minutes a day instead of pure entertainment. I'm a huge believer in this, not because reading makes you smart by magic, but because it's how you steal years of somebody else's hard-won experience for the price of a book. When I was building my first company, I was constantly reading about other people's mistakes, so I wouldn't have to make every single one of them myself. You will still make plenty of your own mistakes, trust me, but you don't need to make the obvious ones that somebody already wrote a book warning you about. And here's a habit most people skip completely. At the end of each day, ask yourself one honest question. Did today move me forward, or did today just happen to me? That's it. You don't need a journal with 12 prompts. You need one honest gut check. Some days the answer is going to be rough. That's fine. The goal isn't a perfect streak. The goal is noticing the pattern. Because if you ask yourself that question every night for a month, and the answer is nothing happened to me, I just reacted to stuff almost every time. That's your signal. That's the universe or your bank account tapping you on the shoulder. I want to address the people watching this who are thinking, this is easy for somebody to say once they've already made it. Fair point. So let me be straight with you about the timeline, because I think people get discouraged by unrealistic expectations more than almost anything else. None of the stuff pays off next week. Most of it doesn't even pay off next year. The 30 minutes of daily learning, the automated savings, the tracking, none of it is going to make you feel rich on day 30. It's going to feel like absolutely nothing is happening for a long time. That's not a bug. That's just how compounding works. Whether it's compounding money or compounding skill, it's invisible right up until it isn't. I built my first real company in my 20s, grinding through years where nothing seemed to be moving, and then it all moved at once. That's usually how it goes for people who actually make it, even though the highlight reel always skips straight to the part where it gets fun. Here's a mental shift that I think matters more than any specific tactic. Stop asking, how do I get rich? And start asking, how do I become the kind of person rich opportunities show up for? Those are different questions with different answers. The first question sends you chasing shortcuts, hot tips, get-rich-quick nonsense, and the second question sends you toward building actual skill, actual reliability, actual judgment, because those are the things that make people want to do business with you, lend you money, invest in your idea, or hire you for the job that changes your life. Opportunities flow toward competence and reliability, like water flows downhill. You don't have to chase opportunity nearly as hard once you've made yourself the kind of person opportunity wants to find. Let me hit you with one more story because I think it makes the point better than any lecture could. Early on, I had a chance to do a deal that on paper looked incredible. Fast money, quick turnaround. Everybody around me was excited about it. Something about it didn't sit right though, and when I actually dug into the numbers myself instead of trusting the pitch, I found the cracks. I walked away. People thought I was nuts. 6 months later, that whole thing fell apart and took a bunch of people's money down with it. I didn't walk away because I'm a genius who can see the future. I walked away because I'd built the daily habit of checking the numbers myself instead of trusting somebody else's version of the story. That one habit, repeated for years, saved me more money than any single investment ever made me. Defense matters as much as offense in this game, maybe more. So let's bring this together, because I told you at the start, this is about what you do every day, not about some secret. Here's the honest list. No fluff, know your numbers, every week, no exceptions. Spend on what makes you better, not on what makes you look better. Put a little money to work consistently and leave it alone. Instead of chasing the hot tip, treat failure as tuition, not as a verdict on who you are. Spend 30 minutes a day getting genuinely better at your craft. Track your spending so you actually know where the leaks are. Automate your savings so discipline isn't required every single time. Feed your brain real information instead of pure noise. And every night, ask yourself if today moved you forward or just happened to you. None of that is flashy. None of that is going to trend on social media. That's actually the whole point. The stuff that works long-term is almost never the stuff that looks exciting in a 30-second clip. The flashy stuff is usually somebody trying to sell you something, and the boring stuff is usually somebody who's actually been through it telling you the truth. I'd rather be the second guy. If you actually do this stuff, not for 1 week because you got fired up watching a video, but for 1 year, you will not recognize your own financial life by the end of it. That's not hype. That's just what happens when you stack small, smart decisions on top of each other long enough. The compounding is slow and then it's fast, just like everything else worth having. If this hits home for you, do me a favor and subscribe, because I've got a lot more of this kind of straight talk coming, and I don't want you missing it. Drop a comment and tell me which one of these habits you're starting tomorrow. I actually read them. And if you know somebody who needs to hear this, somebody who's working hard but spinning their wheels, send them this video. That's it. Go put in the work. Nobody's watching. That's where this whole thing actually starts.